It started like any other night. Me and Emily had been together for 5 years, and one of our favorite things to do was go for late night joyrides on the back roads. Just something simple, something fun. We'd grab some beers, roll the windows down, and just drive. That night, we invited my younger brother Ryan and his girl Chelsea to come along. Ryan had just turned 18, and I figured it'd be fun for him to tag along. We picked up a rack of beer, tossed it in the back, and hit the road. I had 3, maybe 4 beers, but I called it early. I had a morning shift and didn't want to push my luck. Around midnight, I told Emily to drop me off at home, and she did. She kissed me goodbye, told me she'd be back in an hour or two, and drove off with the others. I climbed into bed, figuring that was the end of my night. Sometime later, I woke up, groggy as hell, my bladder screaming at me. I stumbled to the bathroom and noticed right away Emily's side of the bed was still empty. I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls. I shot her a text. "You good?" No answer. I told myself she was just lost in the moment, probably still driving around with Ryan and Chelsea, maybe parked somewhere talking. That's what we always did. No reason to overthink it. I went back to bed. By the time my alarm went off a few hours later, she was home. And not just home, she was wide awake, bouncing into bed, with so much energy it actually woke me up. I'd barely had time to register what was happening before she was on top of me, kissing me, pulling at my shirt. Morning sex wasn't out of the ordinary for us, but something about this felt different. She was too eager, too into it, like she was making up for something. But I didn't question it. Not then. I kissed her, rolled with it, and didn't think twice. After, I showered, kissed her goodbye, and went to work. I had no idea that the night before would come back to ruin everything. Life went on like normal after that night. Or at least, I thought it did. Emily didn't act any different. If anything, she was more affectionate, always touching me, always wanting sex, always going out of her way to make sure things felt good between us. I chalked it up to her just being in a phase, maybe wanting to keep things exciting after 5 years together. I never once suspected a thing. Then, a few weeks later, Emily sat me down with a look on her face I couldn't read. "I'm pregnant." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I just sat there, trying to process. We weren't trying for a kid. Hell, we were careful. I always used protection, and even when I didn't, she was on birth control. But accidents happen, right? That's what I told myself. I looked at her, trying to figure out how I felt. Part of me was terrified. Part of me was weirdly excited. But before I could even wrap my head around it, she started crying. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "I'm not ready to be a mom." And just like that, the decision was made. She wanted an abortion. I wasn't going to fight her on it. It was her body, her choice, and if she wasn't ready, then neither was I. I took time off work, drove her to the clinic, paid for everything, took care of her for days, making sure she was comfortable, making sure she had whatever she needed. I thought I was being a good boyfriend. I thought we were going through this together. I had no idea I was being played. Emily and I never talked about the abortion after that. It was like an unspoken rule. Get through it, move on, pretend it never happened. And for a while, that's exactly what we did. The weeks passed, and everything went back to normal. We still had our late-night drives, still spent weekends with our friends, still planned for the future like nothing had changed. But looking back, I see all the cracks I ignored. There were moments where she'd look at me just a little too long, like she was waiting for me to notice something. Or times when she'd pick fights over nothing, then turn around and act overly affectionate, almost too eager to make up for it. And then there was my brother Ryan. I didn't think much of it at the time, but he started acting different too. Quiet, fidgety, always looking at me like he wanted to say something but never did. I figured it was just teenage bullshit. Maybe trouble with a girl. Maybe he was stressed about school. I never once thought it had anything to do with me. Then, years later, after Emily and I had long since broken up, I found out the truth. Ryan and I were drinking beers in my garage, catching up. We hadn't talked much in a while. Life had taken us in different directions. But that night, we got nostalgic, started reminiscing about the old days, the stupid shit we used to do. And somehow, Emily's name came up. It was casual at first, just a passing mention. But the second I said her name, Ryan stiffened. His face turned red, his grip on his beer tightening. Something was off. I narrowed my eyes. What? He shook his head too quickly. Nothing, man. My stomach twisted. I'd seen that look before. Guilt. I set my beer down, staring at him. Ryan, what the fuck aren't you telling me? He exhaled hard, running a hand through his hair. Then he finally cracked. That night, he said, voice tight. The night we all went driving? After we dropped Chelsea off, she parked the car. She started touching me. My whole body went numb. She what? She came onto me, he muttered. And I didn't stop her. The words slammed into me, one after another, like a sledgehammer to the chest. Emily, my girlfriend of 5 years, the woman I thought I was going to marry, had fucked my own brother. I just sat there, gripping my beer so hard I thought the bottle might shatter in my hand. Ryan couldn't even look at me. His eyes were on the floor like he wanted to sink right through it. She came onto you? I repeated, my voice sounding distant, like it wasn't even mine. He nodded slowly. Yeah. I stared at him, waiting for more. Waiting for the part where he'd tell me he pushed her off. That he told her to fuck off. That he got out of the car and walked home. But that part never came. Instead, he took a shaky breath and muttered, I didn't stop her. Everything inside me went cold. My little brother. The kid I practically raised, the one I always had his back, the one I trusted more than anyone, had fucked my girlfriend in the same damn car we were all riding in just hours before. My head was spinning. You're telling me, I said slowly, that you fucked my girlfriend behind my back and then sat in front of me for years pretending nothing happened? Ryan swallowed hard. I didn't know how to tell you. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. Oh, that's fucking rich, Ryan. You didn't know how to tell me? So instead, you just let me take care of her? Let me pay for the fucking abortion. Let me sit there and hold her hand while she cried over a pregnancy that wasn't even mine? His face drained of color. I didn't know she was pregnant. I shot up from my chair, knocking my beer over in the process. Of course you fucking didn't. Because you weren't the one waking up next to her every morning, thinking she was your girl. You weren't the one who got played like a fucking idiot. Ryan stood up too, hands out like he was trying to calm me down. Look, I fucked up, okay? I was 18, I was drunk, I stepped forward, rage bubbling in my chest. Don't fucking stand there and make excuses. You weren't just some random asshole at a party. You were my brother. He flinched. I know. No, you don't. I spat. Because if you did, you wouldn't have sat there, year after year, lying to my fucking face. You let me love her, Ryan. You let me think I was gonna marry the girl. He didn't say anything. He just stood there, shame written all over his face, like that was supposed to make me feel better. It didn't. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay in control. Tell me one thing. I said. Did you ever sleep with her again? Ryan shook his head so fast I almost believed him. No, it was just that one time. I swear. I stared at him, my hands clenched into fists. I wanted to believe him. But after 5 years of living a fucking lie, I didn't know what was real anymore. I didn't trust her. And now, I didn't trust him either. I stared at Ryan, fists clenched, heart pounding so hard I could barely hear. He looked like a kicked dog, standing there, waiting for me to say something. Like there was anything left to say. Everything about that night came rushing back. The empty bed, the text she never answered, the way she climbed into bed with me the next morning, all full of energy. I felt sick. My own brother. I took a step back, shaking my head. She came home and fucked me after she was with you. My voice was tight, controlled. You knew that. And you just let me sit in the dark like a fucking idiot. Ryan didn't deny it. He didn't even try. I turned, grabbed my keys off the workbench, and headed for the door. Wait, he said. His voice cracked. Just tell me what I can do. I kept walking. He stepped closer, panicked. I was young, I was drunk, I didn't know. I spun around so fast he flinched. You knew, I said, voice cold. And you chose yourself. He looked at the ground, shoulders sagging. I didn't care. I walked out without another word. Because some betrayals, you don't come back from. I left without a word. Didn't look back. Didn't slow down. I needed space, distance, anything to keep me from doing something I'd regret. My whole body was tense, fists clenched, jaw locked. Every muscle begged for a release, but I had nothing left to say, nothing left to do. I found a quiet spot, sat down, and let the silence take over. No more lies. No more excuses. No more wasted time. Ryan wasn't my brother anymore. Emily was nothing to me. That was all there was to it. I didn't go back to Ryan's. Didn't reach out to Emily. I cut them both off like they never existed. No more explanations. No more bullshit. Word got around fast. Family started asking questions. Friends started putting pieces together. I didn't explain. Didn't defend myself. Let them figure it out on their own. Ryan tried once. Showed up where he knew I'd be, looking guilty, like he had something important to say. I didn't let him. I walked right past him without stopping. He got the message. Emily never even tried. Maybe she knew there was nothing left to save. Good. I moved on. Not right away, not easily, but I did. I wasn't gonna let their shit define me. Years later, I ran into an old friend who brought up Emily. She ever tell you the truth? They asked. I just laughed. Yeah, but too late for it to matter. Because that's what it was now, too late. Too far gone. And I was finally done with it.